Welcome, everybody. We are happy to be bringing back our Seat at the Table series. It's our professional development focus that is part of Flex. So we will hear from our speakers today, Cam F. Awesome and Canise Salinas-Willich. We'll introduce them in just a little bit. I'll introduce myself. I am Brandon Wilcox. If you don't know me, I am the Director of the Investor Services with the Shawnee Chamber of Commerce. I would like to start off by recognizing our sponsors for today, our founding Flex sponsors, who without their support, none of Flex would be possible. So we want to recognize them. That's Academy Bank, American Family Insurance Agencies of Brad Henry and Michelle Underwood, and Complete Construction Service. I also want to thank our community sponsor, Country Club Bank. Thank you for all your continued support and leadership. We also want to thank today's and 2021's A Seat at the Table series presenting sponsor, Park University. And so with that, I'll actually turn it over to either Natalie or Shelly to speak on behalf of Park for just a little bit.
Hey everybody, Shelly Quinn here from Park University. I'm the Campus Center coach out in the Lenexa Campus Center. Our flagship campus is located in Parkville, Missouri, and we have two other campus centers in the Kansas City metro area. We are a four-year private nonprofit liberal arts institution that has helped students break barriers to education since 1875. So our motto, faith and work, is as relevant today as it was in the 19th century. Park University is a place to belong. Our core values include academic excellence, inclusivity, where we embrace diversity, teamwork, collaboration, and social responsibility. Diversity is in our DNA. Park's first graduating class included 4 women. So currently, today, we welcome more than 260 international students from 60 different countries. Park University's passion is to help our students to reach their academic and career goals, and our classes are small and engaging. So not only do our professors know our students by name, but personally are there to help them prepare for success. So we have 42 campus centers nationwide, and our state-of-the-art technology, such as Pirate Patch, offers live FaceTime with instructors and distant fellow classmates, no matter what location they're studying from. In addition, we have been able to successfully adapt to the COVID pandemic social distancing guidelines by offering more online classes and a new and enhanced blended modality using Zoom in combination with even smaller class sizes that provide our students an opportunity to attend live classroom settings from home in an effort to keep everyone safe. So with this in mind, we strive to always meet our mission of transforming lives through accessible, student-centered, and quality higher education. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Shelly. Thank you both, you and Natalie and Park University, for being here. Now I will introduce our speakers. Canise Salinas-Willich and Cam F. Awesome. Mrs. Salinas-Willich holds her bachelor's in education with a master's in counseling. She teaches multicultural education at the University of Kansas and the University of St. Mary, and is also a school administrator in the greater Kansas City area. Ms. Salinas-Willich has developed a special interest in the field of education, school leadership, social justice, and the 21st century technology skills. She has sat on a plethora of boards and committees whose purposes spans from organizational planning to visionary leadership. Upon the completion of her doctorate, Canise plans to continue her implementation of preparing schools, universities, and businesses in seeking value for culturally diverse workplace and its impact in our society. Being a global educator is Canise's life work. Mr. Awesome is a sought-after professional speaker and one of the most decorated boxers in U.S. history. Cam holds multiple national championship and Olympic trial boxing titles. Growing up in a very segregated neighborhood, Cam had limited interactions with other cultures. Boxing opened his very small world and gave him the leadership opportunity as a captain of the USA national boxing team, which allowed him to compete internationally in more than 30 countries for the better part of a decade. Through these travels, Mr. Awesome developed a passion to share his experiences interacting with different cultures around the world. With that, Canise and Cam, we're very excited to hear from you. Take it away.
Thanks, Brandon. And I'm just going to clear up a little bit. My name is really weird and I get it and I'm sorry for it, but it's Canise Salinas-Willich. I know it's crazy. So it's all right, Brandon. It's all right. So yeah, thank you for having us. We see that you guys are a pretty close-knit team. So I love that you guys know each other so well. And hopefully you guys can get to know me and Cam a little well too. So Cam, you ready?
Yeah, Brandon, can you give me co-host privileges to be able to spotlight?
Yep.
So today, Cam and I are going to put you through a little taste of what we do together. And you asked, how in the world did you two meet? Like if you're doing all this stuff in education and he's touring the world boxing, how did you meet? And so we met from a mutual friend of ours. Who is a principal in Fort Osage, if any of you are you guys all on the Kansas side? Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And I am a principal on the Kansas side too. So I teeter, I balance on the state line. So, and so we met through a mutual friend that said, hey, I know what you do and I know what he does. And you guys should really work together to meet the needs of adult students and go out and take this show on the road. So we're just going to give you a taste of what we do when we go to present to businesses and schools in and around cultural diversity.
Canise, you want to kind of share about your background, where you're from?
Sure. Brandon gave a good synopsis, but I grew up kind of totally different than Cam. I grew up in the suburbs. I was the only Black student in my class for a while until I got to middle school. So I had that reversed of being the only person in class, not seeing myself and those types of things. And so, but I can't recall a time where I didn't feel like I was different. No one made me feel different other than some people looking at me like I was the exotic person in the school or something like that. And that's not always bad. But no one ever said anything negative to me. I didn't have that type of background. And so as I grew up around everybody. The guy named Ketchy was 6 foot tall, big afro. I had Travis, who was he was a Native American and had a long ponytail, and Grace Clark, still my friend today, blonde hair, blue-eyed, beautiful woman. And so I didn't know anything different because I've always had a plethora of culture that I grew up with. So I feel very privileged to have that, right? But as we get older and as we went into middle school and high school, my group started to change. And I started to want to assimilate. And if you've ever read the book, Why Do All the Black Kids Sit at the Cafeteria Table? We all want to be part of a group. And so Cam and I talk a lot about groups. We talk a lot about why do people do this even in the workforce? Why when you go to a company party, we isolate ourselves in company parties as well. And so we talk a little bit about that. So after I left high school, I wanted to be a doctor. I was going to be a pediatrician, and I had all these lofty goals. And then life happens, right? And I met a guy. And so then I changed my trajectory, went into teaching. I've been in teaching and administration for over 20 years. And I have my master's in counseling. And so I do a lot of work all over the place for all sorts of things. And then I started teaching at the university levels in the last 4 or 5 years. So that's me. Cam?
Okay. I'm Cam F. Awesome. I was born in Long Island, New York, in a very segregated area. My school was just predominantly Caribbean, Puerto Rican, Dominican, and El Salvadorian. My graduating class of close to 1,000 students, we didn't have a single white student in our school. I lived in this very segregated area in New York. Fast forward in high school, wanted to get a date for prom, so I needed to lose some weight, joined the only free gym in the neighborhood, happened to be a boxing gym, didn't get a date to prom, but it became the #1 boxer in the country. And from there, I was able to travel around the world as #1 boxer in America, and I fought the #1 boxers in other countries. And this is when I was exposed to so many different cultures, and I got to experience so many different cultures in so many different countries. And I realized when I came back to America, we don't get to experience any of this because we don't talk about this. Our parents weren't comfortable talking about race and talking about culture, so it just wasn't a conversation we had with them. So as children who grew up with our parents not acknowledging this, we weren't comfortable talking about race amongst ourselves. And now we get to the point where we have another generation growing up and we refuse to talk about race and culture with students because it's a taboo topic. And for some reason, we're supposed to be uncomfortable talking about race and talking about culture, but I believe it should be celebrated. And the only way to cure ignorance is through exposure. So what Canise and I have been doing is meeting with different groups and kind of educating them and making them a little more comfortable. And we do this in different ways. One of the ways we allow audiences to feel more comfortable is, if you check the chat box, we use Padlet link. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Padlet. Padlet is a format where you can ask questions on a board. You guys can open up that link and ask any questions you want. But before we get into all of that, we want to start with an engage.
And let me just preface, Cam has a studio in his house. So if you are seeing him move around and do all these kind of things, because he has like 10 screens, microphones, like, I don't know if he's a DJ or a consultant. I'm not sure, but that's because he's running out. Go ahead, Cam.
Sorry about that. So the activity we're going to be doing today, just to kind of start off, and I want everyone to participate because this is the idea of it. So this activity is called I Am, But I Am Not. So each participant is going to type in the chat. And actually, let me explain why we're doing this. Actually, here's a perfect example. In the chat box, can anyone give me some stereotypes that you hear about people from New York? What are some stereotypes you hear about people from New York? In the chat box, let me know. Loud, loud. Rude, rude, loud. They eat a lot of pizza. Okay. Busy. Yeah. Now, let's switch it up. How about Texas? What are some stereotypes you hear about Texans?
Cam, you're getting too close to home. Somebody might be from
Big hair, bigger the hair, the closer to Jesus. Everything is big. Country, obsessed with, also from Texas. Loves guns, successful. All right, let's switch it up. Anti-mask. Yeah. Let's switch it up. What are some stereotypes you hear about people from, let's go Missouri before we go to Kansas. What do you hear about Missouri? Missouri folk. Backwoods. Redneck. Can't drive. Crime. Hillbilly. Uncultured. All right, so now let's switch it up to Kansas. Real curious. Farmers, nothing, rural.
Nothing.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is I'm not just, oh, my camera turned off. I'm not just looking to, oh, there we go. I'm not just looking to just talk about people from different states, but the idea is to share that we all speak the same language of ignorance. So when I talk about like, oh, New Yorkers, and that's supposed to portray like, oh, you know what people are from New York are like, but I'm from New York. So here's a list of the map of the 50 stereotypes from each state. So I'm from New York. In our interaction so far, do you guys think I'm rude?
Can you make that bigger, Cam? Can you spotlight yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or you can turn your own to speaker.
Yeah. So these are the stereotypes for each state. So I'm from New York. In our interaction so far, have I been rude? All right, so an example for Texas. Everyone says like cowboys are in Texas and redneck rule, but you can take a Southwest flight because you get 2 bags for free all the way to Dallas, take an Uber downtown, and spend an entire week downtown and you won't see a single person on a horse. But these are the stereotypes that we talk about. And the thing is, when we meet a person, the first thing we want to do is we want to put them in a box. But we don't fit in boxes ourselves. So an exercise we're going to do right now is called I am, but I'm not. So I want everyone in the chat box to type in I am, but I'm not, and share something that you are, but an expectation that you do not fill. So an example.
You want them on the chat, or do you want them in the Padlet?
We can actually do it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. So an example for me is I am tall, but I'm not good at basketball. So something that you are, but an expectation you do not fill. All right, Bradley, you're going to have to run those responses.
Okay.
I'm a woman, but I'm not Betty Crocker.
That's me. I'm a woman, but I like to cook, but I'm not Betty Crocker.
Someone said, I'm from Nebraska, but I've never shucked corn. I'm an Iowan, but not a farmer.
I'm older, but I am not unmotivated. I like that.
Yes. I'm Black, but I'm not a dancer. I believe Jacob was a dancer.
I'm Hispanic, but I'm not a Spanish speaker.
Yes.
I love this.
Go for it.
No, I am from Johnson County, Kansas, but I'm not stuck up.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't like ranch.
Meaning ranch dressing? Is that what that?
Yeah. I'm from Kansas, but I don't have a dog named Toto. Oh, so exactly. This is another one that Canise and I speak about. The pylon principle. So the idea of when someone tells you they're from Kansas, and if you tell someone you're from Kansas, it's only a matter of time until you're like, oh, there's no place like home. And it's like, we hear it every single time and everyone thinks they're so unique. So imagine being, and I use air quotes, unique looking or exotic, and you don't live in the area. You don't look like you're from, whatever that means, you're from America. And every day someone approaches you and say, oh my God, where are you from? And you say, Johnson County. And they say, where are you really from? That same feeling, and that's a microaggression that you continuously hear it and it makes you feel uncomfortable. Someone says, I'm outgoing, but I'm annoyed by people. Yes.
Love it.
I'm from Kansas, but not uncultured. Yes.
I'm from Kansas, but I don't live on a farm.
Yes.
Great stuff.
Yeah. So what we want to talk about briefly is I'm a millennial, but I'm not an avocado toast. Okay, time out. I didn't know what avocado toast was. And as a vegan, like you would think I would know, like, oh, here's one for me. I'm a heavyweight boxer, but I'm vegan. Like no one expects that from me. But yeah, I spent $17 on avocado toast in a hotel and I don't know what I was picturing. But when I got avocado toast, literally toast, I was very disappointed. But when I make it on my own, it's pretty good. So what we want to do now, we want to ask in the chat box, does anyone know what, sir? Does anyone know what CQ stands for? Anyone take a guess? And you can also
take a stab at it. Those scientists in the room may try to put
no Googling.
You cannot use your laptop. Amy, I saw you.
Quality control, creative quality.
Remember, I'm a principal, Amy. I can see the whole screen. No, I'm just creative quality, cultural quotient.
Close.
Bradley's acting like he's woke, but I think there might be somebody back there giving him some. He's like being real smug about it. Like, yeah, I did that. But I think it was somebody back in the back.
Someone said woke. Yeah, it's actually
woke.
Close to woke. Yes. Cultural intelligence. So it's a measure of your wokeness, or refers to the skill to relate and work effectively in culturally diverse situations. Canise, you want to explain why that's important?
Yeah, it's really important. So we keep hearing about these buzzwords: equity, inclusion in the workplace, how to get along, how to adapt, how to have good judgment, how to make good decision making, and how to have those tools. But really, at the end of the day, it's about your cultural intelligence and how much of it are you growing. It's just kind of like your own IQ. We may have an IQ on paper, but we can always learn more, right? And so your cultural intelligence is going to help you in your workplaces. And some of you are the owner or the supervisor or the worker, or however it is that you come into your business. You want to be able to get along with everybody, and you want to be able to have trust. You want to be able to have idea sharing and innovation and leadership, and you want to make money, right? But in order to make money, you have to be able to get along with everyone. And so what me and Cam talk about is, how do you grow your cultural intelligence by having these conversations? And so it gets uncomfortable. How many of you have watched any of the series with the uncomfortable conversations with the Black man? Any of you know it? No? Oh man, Cam, we could have added to that. I didn't see a hand. I can't see everyone's hand. Anybody else that doesn't?
It's on. It's good homework. It's a YouTube series. Emmanuel Acho is a former NFL player, and he does this web series, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, where he interviews. He did a 2-part interview with Roger Goodell. He interviewed who's that super cute
Chip and Joanna.
Chip and Joanna. And different people about the uncomfortable conversations that we don't want to have. Yeah, you can drop that in the chat.
And so his is called Uncomfortable Conversations. Cam and I call ours Cozy Conversations, only because we feel like sometimes when you go into, Emmanuel is now sponsored by Oprah, which is great. But Oprah's not going to put anything out there that's not too uncomfortable, right? Because she wants everybody to watch the show. You want everyone to watch this. So every time we ask people, have you watched it? We ask the follow-up question, were you uncomfortable? Did it make you fidget in your seat? And some people will say yes, because I've never had this dialogue. Some people will say no, it was great to watch. And so, which is great. But I guess what we want you to do is think. Did it make you think? And I think overall, it is allowing people to think. No matter how uncomfortable or comfortable you were watching it, it's allowing you to think. Cam and I want to make it cozy, because we want you to want to have this conversation more with more people that you know. And so that you can spread the word about cultural intelligence, cultural diversity, whatever word you want to put on it, so that your company, your business, where you live, where you work can be a better place, right? So we want to ask you guys a couple of questions in relation to cultural intelligence, cultural diversity, equity, inclusion, power, privilege. There's so many words. We can even give you a lesson on the vocabulary. It's pages of vocabulary. But Cam, go ahead, show that first question we have.
Okay, first question. First question.
Nope. Yep.
Which issues around diversity and inclusion would you like to see be addressed in the workplace?
What are you guys seeing out there? Equal pay. Equal pay for what groups though? Because we're going to get real raw in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Is it women to men? Is it sexuality? Is it disability? Is it people with disabilities? Equal pay for Black women. Okay, thank you. Finding more diverse applicants with similar qualifications. Similar to who? Similar qualifications. Say more, Lindsay. I'm reading Bradley. Eric Bienemy. not being hired. Talk about 60 or 70-year-old white male owner of a sport for sitting down with a black man or an interview that is uncomfortable, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So my big issue with the uncomfortable conversation with a black man is, personally me, I wasn't I watched every episode. I wasn't uncomfortable with any of it. Actually, I was very comfortable. There was one episode about interracial dating, and it was nothing about the sexualization of the black male. And the conversations they have aren't the uncomfortable talks, but it's labeled as uncomfortable. But it doesn't mean they aren't still very valuable. What I would like to do with Canise is dig a little bit deeper and talk about real issues in real ways, in a non-judgmental way, but in a way to have an open dialogue about these discussions.
Natalie's really hit something. Discussions on diversity and inclusion with actual minorities being the spearhead rather than the obligation by the minorities. It's funny you say that, or majority, sorry. Natalie, it's funny you say that. Right here and where I work in KCK, we had a employer of a school send all the minorities to diversity training. Let me think about that. He sent all the minorities to the diversity training. Something's missing there. And so they should have been training the people at the job, because it takes courage to get up here and talk about this, but it doesn't take a lot of content because most minorities have lived this life. Now, I can't say me and Cam's life it's remotely different, but we have some commonalities in our lives. We have struggles in our lives that are common. And instead of us being, and some people of color don't want to be that person either. So you do have to ask company owners, because they do not want to be the Black savior or the Black teacher or the Hispanic teacher. Some of them don't want to do that. But if you put it out there that would you be willing to spearhead an initiative, I think some of them would say yes. And they probably would say they need some help and support. And that's what me and Cam do. We give help and support. We start the conversation and we start the dialogue. Creating a token, whatever race or ethnicity you are. Oh, Kira, I don't know how to pronounce it. I hope I don't eat it up, but I feel like I've always been the token everywhere I go, because people will say, wow, did you take speaking lessons? Can you speak for us? Did you take any type of vocal, not vocal like you, Brandon, like speaking lessons? Like, did someone teach me how to speak? I said, no, I went to public school. Like so we get all kind of crazy questions living in this brown body that you wouldn't even think of. Or when someone talk about the pylon principle, when someone says, wow, you're so articulate. You could be the one person who says it and not intentionally meaning anything by it, but then the person you say it to blows up because they've heard it over and over and over. And what is your intent? Like the impact on me versus the intent of the other person is huge. And we talk a lot about intent versus impact as well, because you never want to make anyone feel bad for asking you a question. But sometimes when that question's been asked over and over and over again, people start to get frustrated about it. What else? I don't hear
there's no place like home when you tell someone you're from Kansas City.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else? Equitable hiring processes. I don't see anything else. Let's see.
Let's
ask the other question. Yeah.
Okay. Another question, kind of similarly stated, but completely different question. And I will spotlight. What are some topics around diversity inclusion in which you wish you were better versed? So there's always topics that we're uncomfortable around talking about, and if we never address them, we'll never get more comfortable talking about it. So what are some issues that you wish you were better versed with?
And if you need help with some topics, I'll just throw a few out there. Cultural competence, like better understanding diversity, understanding diversity. What is that? Like, what is cultural competence and diversity? Promoting empathy, understanding really what prejudice and racist really mean. And I know those are some scary words to be thrown out there, but they have been thrown out there a lot without true definition. Having an open mind, implicit bias. What does that mean? There's so many biases out there. We hear them all the time. Cam threw out a word called microaggressions. What is that? What's a microaggression?
Someone said, I wish I had a better
sense for detecting. Intent versus impact. Good people, smart people, brave people say the wrong thing. And we've all said it. Cam and I admit every day that we may say something to someone that was not intended to be said that way, but the impact is what you have to think about.
I have a good example of intent versus impact. Jacob, can you unmute yourself? You're such a great dancer.
Don't let him get all red. He's gonna get red.
I know, see? I had to change my lighting or something.
That rosacea comes in. No.
Jacob, let's say that you're going for a walk, right? You're on a walk, and then I smash you with my car. I know the story takes a weird turn, but you're underneath my car, and I get out my car. I'm like, oh my God, Jacob, you're under my car. I actually didn't mean to hit you. I was texting and driving. I don't usually text when I drive. I was actually going to the gym. I put the gym into the GPS. And actually, while I was looking at my GPS, my mom texted me. Now, I usually don't text when I drive, but you always got to text mom back. Now, Jacob, while I'm talking about this, you're completely under my car. Are you more interested in the intent of my actions or the impact of my actions?
The impact, yeah, because I'm hit under the car.
Because you're hit under the car. Too often do we think of impact as being purely physical. Now, and this is microaggressions. And actually, I'll spotlight. It's a term used for brief and commonplace daily verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional. That's the most important part, ladies and gentlemen, whether intentional or unintentional. That communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative attitudes towards stigmatized or culturally marginalized groups. So that's kind of just a better explanation of microaggressions, because no one cares about your intent. We love to press our intent and tell everyone about our intent. So let's say that I think I'm a funny guy. I think I'm a funny person. I try to be funny, but sometimes my jokes don't land. And one of the first things I always say when I offend someone is I used to always say is like, oh, actually, I would say, it's only a joke. Don't take things so seriously. Now, my intention with that statement is saying, hey, my intention wasn't to make you cry. My intention was to make you laugh. But when someone shares that I offended them and I say, it's only a joke, don't take things so seriously, it's a double-folded problem, because not only did I disrespect you, but after you shared your feelings, I then invalidated you. Now, again, no one cares about your intent. If you offend someone, what we talk about is talking about the impact, getting the person off, getting the car from off the person before we worry about telling anyone about our intent. So that was just something I wanted to share.
Well, and Cam, and I think when we know better, we do better, right? And you've always heard that. So when I'm called on the carpet about it, or if someone tells me, or if I have this little person on my shoulder that I'm like, I really shouldn't have said that. And then if I got we got to be able to read body language and signals. We have to be able to read facial cues with people. This is not just a 5-year-old thing we talk about with infants and toddlers when they're looking at their mom and the baby and, the whole research around that. As adults, we need to do the same thing. We have to stop thinking as a me and think as a we. And what am I doing that could impact you? And so, and I know my audience, so I know you guys have people that you have to train in your jobs. And are we training them on cultural competence or cultural intelligence when we hire them? Are we asking those questions in the interview? What is your CQ? And then they're like, oh gosh, you know, they're getting all uncomfortable and weird because they don't know what that word means. And then that gives you an avenue to put that inside of the interview process so that you know where you're starting when you hire them, not when it's gotten to HR and you're firing them. And it takes too much money to get rid of them when it could have been you didn't even hire them from the first go. And so, and we're not saying this has nothing to do with equal opportunity employment, but it has everything to do with equal opportunity employment, right? And so we're not trying to change all of your policies, but you can do some things to make sure that you're hiring a quality candidate by asking some specific questions. Someone else said in here, how do I detect microaggressions? And is it, I don't know if it's Myers JM or if it's the whole name. Is it? Yes. So say more about that detecting.
It was Amy.
Okay. Amy, can you say more about that?
Yeah, I think my main point is like, how do you know you've done something, or how do you recognize it in what someone else has done?
Absolutely. And here's the thing, Amy, you may not ever know unless someone is brave enough to say that hurt my feelings when you said that, or they don't come back into the conversation, or they stop the conversation. It's reading those behaviors. But I think understanding what microaggressions are and doing some research on microaggressions will like help you with that. So, and our culture is very sensitive right now. So it's really sensitive. Things that we used to say like, oh, I'm colorblind. Oh, you better not say that if you're woke. You better not say you're colorblind. You are color aware. You are color everything else. Because if you are colorblind, that means you don't see me. You don't see Cam. Yeah. You know, so some of those things that, and I'm guilty. I used to tell everybody, I am colorblind. I love the world. You know, my family is the United Nations. Well, I probably shouldn't say that because now I'm saying something about the United Nations. And, you know, so you have to be careful about what you're saying. But it's about leaning in to different cultures. So Amy, I'm going to put you on the spot. How many Black friends do you have?
That I see on the daily? On the
daily.
None.
Not many, right?
No.
So you'll never, right. How many Hispanic friends? I mean, it can go on and on and on. Right. And so until you put yourselves in those spaces, you'll always wonder if what I'm saying is right or what I'm saying is wrong, because you're not leaning into those cultures. You may go eat at the Hispanic or the Mexican restaurant, right? But am I sitting down with the waitress and asking her, hey, how many, are people rude to you when they come in here? And if I've ever been rude to you, please let me know. Have I ever been demeaning when asking for something? I see people whistle and snap and when I'm in these restaurants. And so, and I don't know if you've ever seen that, but I see it. And so asking and making sure that when I'm in spaces that I'm taking care of the people who are there, or asking them questions while I'm there, or just getting to know them genuinely. For example, my husband is white. Okay, my first husband was Hispanic. Sorry, that's Salinas. My second husband is white. He's German. That's Willich, right? And so last night we were watching, I know it's crazy, but I am a sane person. But anyway, and so we were watching this series last night, and he said, I really need to sit down with your dad to ask him about his story, right? And I go, but why? Like, do you want to know why? Or do you want to know their story? And do you genuinely want to know someone's story? Or are you just probing because now your Black wife is here and you need to know a little bit more? So know your why, right? Know why you want to dig in deeper. Know why you want to be better at microaggressions and seeing that. Know why you want to recognize biases. Because if you just do it because it's a checkoff list to be better at your CQ, it's not going to really do anything to make you a better person at the end of the day. Right. And then he got all nervous and I was like, okay, it wasn't like that. I wasn't trying to put it on the spot. I'm just saying, you know. And so he's probably like, what did I marry? What did I get into? I did not know you were going to be some cultural Nazi, but it's like, and that Nazi, I can't say that anymore. Like everything we have thought about, you cannot say. And so there's a book. Cam, tell them about the book we like to tell people about.
Okay, this book is, says to assume positive intent and suspend judgment. It's 35 dumb things well-intended people say. Surprising things we say that widen the diversity gap. So this book is big on intent versus impact. And there's 35 statements in this book. And I'll share a link of this book shortly. I've said all 35 things in this book, by the way, all 35 things. Now, first of all, if you're dealing with people in the office, people of the same race, people of different race, people of different cultures, there's things that we say in our everyday conversation that we don't realize the impact of these statements. One of them I shared was, it's only a joke, don't take things so seriously. Another one, which I'm guilty of because I've traveled to over 30 countries. I didn't have a house until recently. I lived in a van and I travel a lot. So I'm terrible with names. With Zoom, everyone's name is at the bottom left. But in real life, we don't have name tags. So I would call every guy bro and every girl boo. Until one day, I said boo, and this lady was like, I don't know you. And I was like, oh, actually, you don't. And I realized one of the things in this book is calling women girls, honey, sweetie, or other familiar names. Now, these are simple things that everyone should know, but are you taking time to make sure that everyone in your office knows these things and be able to respectfully call them out on these things? Well,
some of those things can be deemed as sexual harassment nowadays. So you sure can't call somebody honey or sweetie or boo, because that could be harassing.
Another one is, what are you, or where are you really from? We spoke about that with the pile-on principle. Canise brought up, I don't see color or I'm colorblind. These are things that we say in our everyday language that we see no issues in. Because I don't know if you guys are familiar with redlining, but we go into redlining and segregation in that talk. And I'm the child of two immigrants. My mom's from England, my dad's from Trinidad. When they moved to America, they lived in a certain area because they were immigrants. I lived in that area because they were my parents. I am who I am because of my experiences. A lot of my experiences happen because of what I look like and the color of my skin. If you say that you don't see color, then you can't see my experiences. And if you can't see my experiences, how could you see me as a person? So these are some of the topics that we talk about. We do it in a judge-free way to make people feel actually comfortable, because the only way we can break down these barriers is by actually being exposed to each other and having these conversations and sometimes saying the wrong thing. We speak a lot about respectfully calling out your peers and how to be respectfully called out. Okay, Canise shared it in the chat box.
Yeah, I did.
And actually, we have 5 more minutes, so you guys can use this Padlet link to ask any questions you like. You can ask them anonymously in the Padlet link, or you can ask them in the chat box. And as you guys ask some questions in the chat box, another statement. Actually, Canise, you got anything?
Let's see here. I'm sorry, I got about 15 different things open at the same time. I know all of you do too. No, I just want to know anything. I know, and somebody wrote the word awkward and they took it back, but I wish you would have kept it. This conversation is awkward. This conversation is uncomfortable. All we want to do, and this is not to sell you guys on anything, but there are people out here who enjoy having this conversation, and we would love for you to talk to your companies and have Cam and I come out, because this is a hard dialogue to have. And I teach it at a school level, at a college level. And I know Shelley and Natalie, you probably have cultural diversity courses. But what I find is, even in the School of Education, the first and last time that a course is actually given is in their freshman or sophomore year. And then after that, it's never talked about again. And so you live your whole life either learning from the media, being socialized by whoever we're socialized by, our schools, our churches, our what have you, our social groups. And then we never talk about it again. But then we're laid into this, we're then put into a community of people that everyone looks different, sounds different, smells different. And then we have to all get along. But we've never been taught how to get along. So I just encourage you to really, really talk to your groups about how to talk about it. Diverse and buying staff, how can we find more diverse applicants? Not that this is an easy question, but the easiest answer for me is, how are you promoting it to people? And are you sending, and forgive me, we're open, right? It's lunch, so you can't find me, right? Are you sending white people to find diverse people? Because if you're sending someone that doesn't look like them to then recruit them, how are they going to feel comfortable that you're going to take care of them? So I always say this about education. If we don't go and send minorities to Atlanta, Texas, the southern states to go look for good teaching candidates, how will we find them if we're sending our very conservative, very privileged, white employees out to go find these people? Because then it's like, oh, are you going to take care of me? Am I going to feel safe? Because I'll tell you this, minorities want to feel safe in the workforce and they want to feel heard. So think about that in your company. Who's going out?
Canise, we got a question. Where's the line drawn between well-intended versus racist? Or is that blur lined? I can tell you that there are well-intended people can cause harm. So it's not mutually exclusive. I mean, you can be well-intended and very racist as well. And actually we go into explaining what racist is, because the word racist is such a loaded term that we try to avoid, and no one wants to be called racist. A lot of times I like to ask, can you point out any racism in America right now besides the blatant police brutality? And the problem is, when we can't point out racism and we're not allowed to point at racist behavior, how can we address these problems? Someone in the chat box says, as a minority, I realize I've too used microaggressions. Not proud of it, but glad to be able to recognize it and continue to learn by conversations like these. Yes, I have said, I don't believe in cancel culture. I believe in accountability culture and counsel culture, because I've said a lot of things well-intendedly and I've put my foot in my mouth, calling girls boo or asking people where they're really from. I said that I was colorblind before as a Black person. Spoiler alert, I'm Black. Someone asked, where do you draw the line between, or is being the only Black person in your company considered the token? Here's the thing. As a Black person, I wakeboard. Not a lot of people look like me in the wakeboard park. I do not see myself as a token, because I am everywhere I go and I cannot go anywhere without me. So no, I am not a token. What the problem is if a group decides to look at me as a token, as to say, oh, we have a Black friend, or makes me speak up on behalf of all Black people, or be forced to educate all of my non-Black friends. The title of token is not put on by the person of color or put on by the potential token. It's put on by the group, the majority group. But we are short on time. I want to thank you guys.
Well, let me quickly answer Don real quick. So Don said something about, if you don't have someone in your company who is of color and you have to send someone down, they should be, they should be aware of diversity and inclusion. Absolutely. And they have to be very open about either not having a lot of minority candidates in their company, wanting to work on building the minority, building up that clientele or that the group in our company, or knowing your rights. Like, you have to be able to say, I get that we are not, you know, sending someone, or we may not have a lot of people in our company who may look like you, and you know, you'll shape it the right way and you'll say it the right way. But you have to put that out there, because if you put it out there, then they go, oh, okay, well, they are very aware. It's still about that safety piece. It's still about being safe and letting them know that in our company, everyone's valued. It's about value and belonging. So I'll end on that. All right, Brandon, you're amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. No, you guys, and maybe that's one too. Yeah. So Canise, Cam, thank you so much. We really appreciate all that. If you haven't already seen, if you are a chamber member, you will actually get another opportunity to see Canise and Cam speak in person. It'll be limited in person and then some virtual. But next month, April 22nd, for the Chamber's monthly luncheon, we will have them speak on a slightly different topic, but in the same realm of what we've talked about today. So again, thank you so much. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to like Flex on Facebook and Instagram. That's a good way to keep informed of upcoming events and announcements. Speaking of which, the next one is Wednesday, April 7th. We will be back at Bury the Hatchet for Axes and Taxes Round 3. Axes and Taxes Tokyo Drift, sponsored by Summer Spencer and Company. Thank you again to Park University for sponsoring today's program. Everyone have a great afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you again really soon.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate